Hello everyone, it is Bridget here from Bridget's Healthy Kitchen, wishing you a wonderful day wherever you are in the world. I hope you're well. I hope you are staying safe. Thank you for joining me in the Healthy Kitchen. It's a lunchtime class we're doing today. Even if you're not watching this at lunchtime, it's currently lunchtime, and the reason why I'm doing this class now is because this particular dish that we are creating today, well, this condiment, for want of a better word, apple chutney, I'm actually going to be serving it tonight with a crispy pork belly. So I have to make it today so we can eat it later on. So very exciting class today, because I'm not sure about you guys, but I love things that have that kind of sweet and sour balance. And when you say a word like chutney, you know it's going to have wonderful spice. It's going to have that lovely, lovely balance of little bit of sweetness, and then also the tang of the acid as well. So it's a really simple recipe, and currently here in Sydney, it is winter, so apples are in season, and they've got so many amazing qualities about those apples too. We just have to make this chutney. So come on down to my bench. As I was saying, it is an easy recipe. It's not hard at all, which is really, really nice to know that you can actually make this and it's pretty simple. So I am using apples, and I'm using the tartest apples I can get my hands on, Granny Smith. If you have an apple tree that is currently in blossom and they tend to be a little bit tarter than the store-bought ones, then you're on a good thing. So we want to go for a good cooking apple. Now I can also say that you can make this particular chutney using pears or using quince. Now in saying that, apples are going to be the better fruit for you to choose, only because they've got that wonderful pectin, which is really good for our gut health, really good at lowering blood glucose levels, glucose in the blood as well. So apples are definitely the one that I prefer, and I do like them. They're nice and tart. I find that pears especially have a little bit too much sweetness for me personally, and you know when a fruit has got a sweeter than other fruits, they tend to be higher and the naturally occurring sugars, fructose. So that's why I like to choose a nice tart fruit, and we're going to be using apples. So the first thing that you want to do is obviously grab your apples. For this particular recipe, this makes about a jar about that big, so a medium-sized jar, about 300 grams or 10.5 ounces, and you need to start with 500 grams or half a kilo or 1.1 pounds of your lovely tart apples. We're going to peel them, of course. You don't want to have skin in your chutney. That's not very nice. And hello to everyone for joining me. I think I saw the lovely Deanna is joining us all the way from the US. And who else have I seen? Was that Christine I saw as well who's joining us? So welcome guys, welcome along for our chutney cooking class. If you have followed any of my recipes previous to this one, you know that I really like anything pickled, anything with vinegar, and anything that's sort of, you know, got those wonderful prebiotic and probiotic qualities. And this chutney is definitely up there as well, because we are going to be adding a prebiotic to it. I mean, it already is a prebiotic thanks to the pectin and that you get naturally occurring in apples. So it already is a prebiotic, but we're going to double up that prebiotic quality as well. So peel your apples. Easiest way, we're going to dice them. Easiest way to do that. It's not hard. So I like to obviously peel. I don't bother with the coring business, because all you need to do is just to slice down. See what I'm doing? I'm cutting as close to the core as possible. There you go. Easy, right? You don't have to worry about coring. That's painful. So if you can just get like the cheeks of the apple, just like that, by just slicing as close to the core as possible. You can see I've just got really good, see, not too bad. And then do it again, and you've got the cheeks of the apple, the core is there, we throw that away, piece of cake. So you want to, for your chutney, you want to cut the apples sort of into smallish dice. So something along, I'll show you guys close up, something like that. You see, that's the sort of size of the dice that you want. You don't want them too big, because even though we do cook this down, simmer this down for a good amount of time, these types of fruit, these types of apples do tend to hold their shape. So have a really good think about, you know, when you are cutting your apples, of getting them into, I'm not going to say a fine dice, but definitely a smallish dice is what you want, because anything too big means you're just going to have really, really big chunks of apple in your chutney, which is not really Nah, don't want that. Do not want that. So give it a bit of a dice. Take your time here. Remember, 500 grams or 1.1 pounds is what we are looking for in terms of quantity. I must tell you that I've made some like 4 days in a row now. Don't know why. I guess it's being in lockdown. I need to do something. Guess what I'm doing? I'm creating pickles and chutneys and all sorts of stuff like that. So I made this recipe using 1 kilo yesterday, just so I've got some in the fridge for another time. So yeah, by all means, double it. All right, that's just going to go into a heavy bottomed pot. So a heavy bottomed pot. And remember, 500 grams in total. Depending on the size of your apples, could be 3 or 4 apples. Now the other major ingredient in here, apart from the spices, is we're going to be putting a bit of onion. I've just got a normal sort of small to medium sized onion, and I'm not using red, I'm just using a plain old onion, and we're going to be cutting this one into dice as well. And the easiest way to do that is, so I cut through the middle of the onion, but when I peeled it, I made sure to leave the root intact, because that is going to help to hold the layers of the onion together. So I'm just making an incision through the onion, but I'm not cutting right through to the core. I'm just sort of going around about that far, that close to the end of the core. So the whole thing's intact. Because then what you're able to do is to take your knife and you're going to slice it across the grain of the onion. Do that a couple of times, because we want a smaller dice than the apples with the onion. So now that I've done that, I'm actually going to swap knives. So it's a bit easier. I'm just going to very slowly and carefully, holding the onion with my fingers so that all those layers stay intact, I'm just going to slowly and carefully cut the onion into small dice. It is the easiest way to do this. We call this dice in our kitchen, we call this a brunoise. So it's a very fine dice. And like I was saying, as you can see, it is smaller than what we did with the apples, which is once again really important, because the last thing you want is really, really big chunks of onion through your chutney. So it's all about, we're thinking about the texture here as well as the flavor. And oh gosh, I have to say to you guys, it is such a fabulous, fabulous flavor. And I find that it goes with so many things. Like, yes, I'll be making this for the kids. I'm making this for the kids tonight because they're going to be eating some pork belly, some crispy skinned pork belly. So they'll be eating that. And of course, you know how apple and pork goes so well together. So this chutney just goes so well with the pork. All right, so we've got that one sort of sliced onion there. Just make sure everything's cut up. If you see a few big pieces, you could always just run your knife through it randomly just to make sure everything's nice and small. That's going to go into the pot as well. Where's our pot? Remember, heavy bottom pot. Reason being, this will sit onto the cooktop for a little bit of time, and you don't want your chutney potentially catching and burning. So always go for a nice heavy bottom pot. And this pot that I've got, it's been in my kitchen for many, many, many years, and is literally my favorite saucepan. I'm just going to give it a bit of a mix through, just get the onion and the apple mixed through together. And we can add pretty much all the ingredients straight into our pot, so it's going to really save on the cleaning up as well. So now that's in there, we can start thinking about the spices. And the spices that I'm going to be using today, the first one that I'm going to be using is a little bit of fennel seeds. Once again, fennel goes really well with apple. It also goes really, really well with pork too. So it is all coming together very, very nicely. So I'm taking my fennel seeds, and to give them a real boost, a boost of flavor, I've got just a small frying pan on with nothing in it. It's called dry frying or dry toasting. So 1 teaspoon of fennel seeds goes into the base of our frying pan. And the reason why I'm doing this is to increase the flavor of the fennel seeds. So this is known as blooming spices. And when you do this, what you're releasing is the volatile oils that naturally are locked inside these spices. And upon heating them, the flavor enhances times 10. So this is going to be 10 times more flavor. So now that I've just added that little bit of heat in a dry frying pan, see it's starting to pop. I'm not sure if you can hear that. That is telling me that it's ready. That's all you need to do. It literally takes like 30 seconds to 1 minute. You get a bit of a pop, keep an eye on them. You don't want to burn them because then they'll go bitter. And as soon as you get that pop, all you got to do is just add them there. And now we have added so much intense flavor just by giving those fennel seeds just a little bit of heat. But let's keep on adding spices. The spices that I'm adding today, I'm going to be putting in a little bit of cinnamon. Makes sense, right? Apple and cinnamon. And you want to put in half a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. As well as that, we're going to be adding a little bit of cloves. Cloves and apples, makes sense again. Half a teaspoon of ground cloves go in there. And the last spice that I'm adding, a little bit left field, coriander powder. I'll be putting in 3/4 of a teaspoon of coriander powder. Now, if you don't like coriander, don't worry. If you don't like coriander leaves, this tastes nothing like coriander leaves. It's quite amazing. You wouldn't even know it's from the same plant. But please, please, please try the coriander powder. It really does add quite a special little flavor to it. We're also going to add in half a teaspoon of mineral salt is going to go in there. And that's kind of all of our seasonings or all of our spices that we've added. We don't have to think about adding any more. Give it a bit of a stir. Now let's think about the sweet portion. Of course, these are tart apples, hence why I like to make a chutney from a nice tart fruit. But we're going to add a bit more balance when it comes to sweetness. And the way we're going to do that, there's my scales there. The way that we're going to do that is we're going to be adding in our zero as sugar, so our pure erythritol, because as you guys know, this is 100% sugar-free. This is not an artificial sweetener as well. Our zero as sugar is made from fruits and vegetables found naturally, obviously in nature, and then they are processed to give us almost like this one-to-one alternative when it comes to sugar. It's pretty fabulous. And for this, we're going to be adding into here 70 grams, which is 2.5 ounces of our zero as sugar is going in there. This is not going to, this particular, incredible alternative to normal sugar will not raise your blood glucose. It's so incredibly, well, it's zero on the glycemic index, which means it's not going to also spike your insulin as well, which is brilliant. So that goes in there. We need to think about that balance one more time, and the way that we're doing that is with, I've got a organic, raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar. And how much we're going to be putting in there? About half a cup, which is 125 mils, which is around about 4.2 ounces of ACV, or apple cider vinegar. We're going to go in here. So it's a decent amount, and you guys know how good apple cider vinegar is for balancing out, balancing out hormones, balancing out, the acid that already currently lives in our stomach. And it makes the most fabulous, fabulous chutney. So once again, a little bit of a stir goes on, and then you're going to be popping that straight onto your cooktop. And what you want to do is you want to bring it to the boil. That's the first step. Is bring the mixture to the boil. And once that mixture comes to a boil, and it's got a nice little bubble happening, you then need to turn the heat down until it's just a light simmer, sort of simmering fingers just like that. To bring it to the boil and then turn it down and allow it to simmer. You still want a bit of movement in the pot though when it is on that simmer, and you're going to leave that. You're going to leave that for about 1 hour of this type of simmering is going to be happening. And as that 1 hour is progressing, what is happening is you are getting, the apples are beginning to soften, of course. The flavors that you've mixed with the spices and the vinegar, that particular liquid begins to get very syrupy, which of course you're going to expect from a chutney, right? And what's really beautiful is those flavors just intensify dramatically. So after your hour is up, and you will get a very dark color. At the moment, it's really, really pale and kind of boring. But after that hour is up, you're going to get a very lovely, fruity, quite voluptuous chutney, but you're also going to get a lovely sheen on it from the syrup as it begins to mix together and evaporate and intensify those flavors. You're going to get an absolutely wonderful chutney. So once your hour is up, I'll show you what it's going to look like once the hour is up. Here's some I prepared earlier. So this is what your chutney is going to look like. I'll show you this one. Once your hour is up, look at the color difference. Can you see the color difference? Yeah? Starts off looking like that, ends up looking like that. That is the color that you're going for. And you're going to have a wonderful bit of liquid in there. You can see there's a little bit of liquid in that one as well. Really gorgeous. But once your hour is up, what I then want you to do is we're going to increase the prebiotic quality in this particular chutney. So you're going to go to your pure as inulin powder, which is our dietary fiber, which is our prebiotic dietary fiber. And of course, we've already got great fiber in here from the apples, from the pectin as well. But we're going to intensify that by adding in 30 grams, which is 1 ounce. And this is what I want you to do. This once it's come, you've had that hour simmer, you take it off the heat. So we don't want to add the inulin in when it's boiling. We want to bring it back off the heat, add your 30 grams or 1 ounce of inulin and just stir it through, and that's all you got to do. There's no blending, there's no mixing. All you literally need to do, once that simmering has happened for an hour and you take it off the heat, stir through the inulin, you've increased the prebiotic quality, you've increased the dietary fiber, and you've also added an even more balanced sweetness balance. You can see it's coming to the boil now. So now that it's at that's a boil, I'm just going to turn it down. I've got so much chutney in my house right now. Can you see? Okay, let's just reduce that down to a simmer now. That's all you got to do, and that's set your timer for 1 hour. Literally, set your timer for 1 hour. Come back every now and then and give it a stir, but provided you've got a really good quality pot, nice and heavy, it won't stick to the bottom. So once your inulin's added, just let it cool down, and then you can either store it in clean jars or clean containers in the fridge. This will last in your fridge for 2 to 3 weeks, provided every time you dip into your jar, make sure you're using a clean spoon, because that will ensure that we don't contaminate this with dirty spoons, because that's the only way it's going to spoil, is if you contaminate it with a dirty spoon. So always go into your pickles jars, your chutney jars, your sauce jars, whatever it is, with a clean spoon. And what that then means is you get to have gorgeous, gorgeous chutney, your own homemade chutney, sitting in your fridge for at least 3 weeks. Now, I have to be honest with you, none of mine's lasted 3 weeks yet, because I always eat it. I literally add this to so many things. So of course, I've talked about how tonight the kids are having crispy skinned pork belly, which yes, I will be sharing the recipe for how to get the most incredible crispy skin, beautiful marinated pork belly, unbelievable. And they're going to be having it with this chutney because it goes really well together. But think of any type of protein this goes really, really well with. And what I have learned over the last couple of days, hence why it's my current obsession, this apple chutney, is that it goes really well with stir-fried vegetables. Like literally, I stir-fried all these vegetables, had them in a big plate, had some of this on the side. I was in heaven, because once again, you're getting that really fabulous balance. And what I learned is this really helps me to eat even more vegetables, because it's so incredibly delicious. So you can put it in a gut healing bowl, you can put it on the side of chicken, you can put it with beef, you can put it with lamb, of course you can put it with pork, it goes really nice, but it also goes fabulous with vegetables. And I am yet to discover something that this doesn't go with. In fact, it smells so good, Coco thought it was dessert. It's not dessert! But you could probably put it with coconut yogurt and that would be pretty fabulous as well. So there you go, guys. I hope you have enjoyed this little journey into homemade chutney. I will be sharing this recipe in its entirety with you tomorrow on Bridget's Healthy Kitchen on our recipe page. Keep an eye out for that. If you'd like a copy of the PDF sent to you, you just got to request it and then we'll send it straight out to you. So thank you for joining me today. I have another couple of exciting classes coming up this week. On Saturday, we'll be making a very delicious quinoa bread on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we'll be doing one of our Sunday sessions, a Q&A Sunday session with you guys. Keep an eye out on our events page. I'll be posting those classes really soon. I look forward to seeing you back in the kitchen again for quinoa bread, and then in the office for Q&A Sunday session this week coming up. Bridget's Healthy Kitchen. I hope you guys stay safe and well, and until next time, take care everyone. Bye.